whose grace made this event completely auspicious beyond anyone's imagining. The picture that Maharaj is showing was snapped at the very end of the First World Tour. And this world tour was in 1992, I think. Yes. And it went for 1 week, and we had the great happiness to host Srila Gurudev in our home. And the miracles of that world tour can't be estimated highly enough. Everyone came together by his influence, who, no matter what kind of conception they had, everybody was greatly united by this time, where he was about to depart at the airport. And his appreciation for my husband taking such good care of him earned my husband many, many wonderful things. And here he's sitting. It's time to wait until Gurudev can go through the gate. And you know how the devotees would not want to spend one single second away from Gurudev. So we would just sit until they said, he has to go now. So that's what we were doing right there. And everyone was getting a big bear hug from Srila Gurudev, all the men. And one thing Srila Gurudev had said to me many times during that week when he saw me and my daughter, who had stayed at a friend's house so that the entire house could be populated by the whole entourage freely. And so we had been happily taken care of by our friends who were nearby. But I would go over all the time, and Srila Gurudev would constantly say, you are refugee, and appreciate that. I always felt that it was his way of saying he can't express enough how grateful he was, that we would just give him our house. And of course, for us, it was like, of course. But because I felt a little uneasiness every time he said that, while he was waiting, at one point he was milling around, and I got this idea to go up to him, and I folded my palms and I assured him, Gurudev, next time you come, we will be ready to host you in 5 minutes. I don't know why that was the way I said it, but that's what came out. And I just wanted, it was my way of saying, we were so happy that you came. And when I said that, he threw his arms around me also. And he squished my face into his silk, and his garland was here, and gave me a bear hug. And my palms were still like this. And so then the photographer and my husband walked up and said, could we get a picture now? And I just thought, you'd better. I will never be this happy again in my life. And so then later, when it calmed down even more, and he and my husband sat there in the airport waiting area, and that was how that picture was snapped. And we were just beyond happy, and it did come to pass that we got to host him again the next year, which is a whole nother story. All the stories are incredible, but that's a very long one, which can come up at another time. And this is the picture which is generally given in the calendar, and I have a copy of it that was published in the Australia not Vyas Puja, but calendar one time when I was in Navadvip, and Sadhu Priya Prabhu came and brought a copy of the annual calendar in which they had, they had put not only the list of all the holy days, but pictures when they had them. And so Gurudev was looking through this calendar. He liked it. It was a little leaflet, many pages actually, maybe 100, but sort of small. And when he came to this picture, and Gurudev was so happy, and he looked up and he saw me sitting there, and he handed me the leaflet, and that's what's on my altar today, along with my husband's deity of Srila Prabhupada. And so this picture also made its way, as Maharaj was saying, in a framed form to his, I believe the final place for it was just behind where Maharaj would sit in Navadvip on the shelf, about here. And he was always saying so many sweet things about the pastime of my husband's leaving, and I don't know how I can begin to give that proper attention, even somewhat proper attention. But he was ill, very ill. He had been diagnosed with terminal cancer about, let's see, that was in June, and he had been in September. He had learned from the doctor, and he immediately told Srila Gurudev, and they gave their diagnosis, and they offered him to get treatment, medical care, and they gave some estimate that if he did, he would perhaps be living in 3 years, but never off of that care. And if he did not, then maybe he would live for another 3 months. And that was an easy decision for him, because he would never be off of that care, so that life would have not been. And he was well aware that he had already received so much mercy, inconceivable mercy, from Srila Prabhupada in 1969. And he had gone and met Prabhupada in Los Angeles, and not having any idea that he was looking for Srila Prabhupada, but they had just graduated from university, he and a friend who became initiated as Nityananda Prabhu, and later became a top leader of the Mormon Church in Salt Lake City, where I've seen him a few times. He's very respectful, especially to Srila Prabhupada. But the two of them had hitchhiked together like the day after their university graduation out from Texas out to Los Angeles, and they had a friend to stay with. When he woke up that morning, he started wandering down the street, which happened to be called La Cienega Boulevard, if any of you look at the history of early ISKCON before the current temple on Watsika. And walking down the street, he saw a very interesting man standing in a doorway with a sika, and the man saw him, and his hair was sort of longish. And so the man said to him, and this we later learned is Murlidhar Prabhu, a great artist of ISKCON. And so what he said to my husband, who was quite startled to see him, "Do you know who is Timothy Leary?" Do you know who is Timothy Leary? Well, at that time there was other movements besides Srila Prabhupada's going on, and my husband knew the name. He wasn't his follower, but he knew the name, and he said yes, and he said, oh, Timothy Leary used to say that you can, via drugs, hallucinogens, you can see the white light, which is the highest reality. And so the devotee said to my husband, do you want to see where the white light comes from? I later got to tell Murlidhar Prabhu, who didn't remember saying it, but he just... But of course my husband said, yes. I mean, this was not what he was expecting. He was just waked up and walking out the door. And so he followed him inside that early temple, and there on the wall, high up on the wall, was Lord Jagannath, Lord Balaram, and Lady Subhadra. And my husband said that when he saw them, he fell down, and he thought, my life is never the same again. He hadn't had any particular plans. He just graduated from university and didn't know what he was going to do. But when he saw them, it just struck him that my life has just been taken over just by seeing them. And then he went and got his friend who was with him, and within a few days, Srila Prabhupada came from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and visited this small temple, and they got to receive his darshan and got to receive initiation from him. And his friend was named Nityananda. He was very tall and always danced like this, and that was what Srila Prabhupada had said, why he gave him the name Lord Nityananda. And my husband received the name Rishabdev. His name was Richard, and the way Prabhupada pronounced it, my husband could tell that he's very conscientious of making people happy in every way, so our names often wouldn't change too much. And in the course of the conversation, he got to have a long conversation with him at his initiation. And what are you doing? I've just graduated from university. What were you studying? And that was dramatic art at the University of Texas in Austin. And then somehow in that discussion, it came out that he knew carpentry. So for dramatic art, you'd build the sets for the plays, and so he had learned carpentry. And then Prabhupada really picked up and started telling him about a wonderful devotee named Jayananda Prabhu in San Francisco, who is known as the father of the Western Rath Yatra. And he was building the carts at that time in San Francisco, and so Prabhupada asked him to go and assist Jayananda Prabhu. And so he did that. And then sometime later, he was in Dallas, Texas, and I joined and learned that they desired that my next service was going to be marrying this wonderful brahmachari whose name was Rsabhdev. And they couldn't tell me anything about him except that if his name was Rsabhdev, he had to be wonderful. So with that kind of faith, somehow I ended up in Dallas and married to I'm very horrified to learn that was not his name. And my first thought was, does that mean he's not wonderful? So, and I had just joined, so I had no idea what was going on. But everything worked out so amazingly by Krishna's arrangement. Everything that Prabhupada was doing was totally amazing, including our mothers got together and learned that they really liked each other a lot and had a lot in common, and that was a good thing. And not only that, but they were both into ancestry and discovered that we had, like 200 or 300 years prior, had neighbors, had ancestors that were neighbors of each other. And both of them they both concluded that that meant reincarnation must be real. I don't know why. And one of his ancestors had been the founder of the town that I grew up in, all the way, I mean, what was that, 1,000 miles apart? But to them, this was very significant. So it was these kind of mystical ways that everything seemed like Krishna consciousness is right. It didn't have to make sense. It was just a deep feeling that we're very glad that this is where we are and we're going to go straight forward in this. And he ended up with this a very important duty. Since he was an older devotee, all of 26 years old, they asked him to please do something that would help support the temple, which was going very quick rate. And everybody needed to be able to carry on and not worry about money. And so they asked him to do that. And he had been a salesperson before, and there was an incense company that had just started, had been begun by Prabhupada. And he was happily selling the incense in like a 6-state area, and it was not very pleasant because he had to drive a van all day to go to all of these places. And he, we didn't have much facility at that time. And then finally, at the end of the day, he could just chant japa, but then go again. There were only a couple of books to read anyway. But he got this idea at some point, maybe because he was also the temple commander in charge of the temple running smoothly, not running out of pencils or whatever. And so he got this idea, and he wanted to ask Srila Prabhupada if he could run this business from the temple instead of driving and driving, if he could just do it by phone, because he had already established relationships with all these shops. And so Srila Prabhupada once in a while came to that Dallas temple on his way from New York to Los Angeles. He might stop over. So my husband got a appointment to meet with him. And the temple president also had an appointment to meet with Prabhupada. And my husband was waiting and happily listening and seeing Srila Prabhupada up close and doing his pastimes of meeting and directing, and then going straight back to his translating and so many things. And so the temple president asked his question first, which was, Prabhupada, I don't think I'm well suited to this. I don't really like the city. I like to be in the country, or especially by the ocean. And my husband recognized this is not the submissive inquiry that we read about, but Prabhupada's answer was very grave, and he said, you take one service and you make it your life. And when he heard Prabhupada telling the temple president that, he felt that his question was answered, and he never again thought about changing anything. I have so much service. I'm fortunate. I'm just never going to stop this. And trying to provide funds for Vaishnavas and for service was what he did the entire rest of his life. He ended up starting a business that generated a lot of income, and that would go to the various temples or to devotees or anything. And Mandakini, our daughter, even pointed out that it continued after his passing, because when he was too ill, just before he passed, he would dictate to her the answers. He was still supporting the customers, which would generate income. Now he was with Gurudev, so the income could come to him, to Gurudev, in Navadvip Dham. And the lines were down, and so she would type everything, and they'd be in a queue. And as soon as the lines came up, after he had passed, the service went out and, generated that income for. So we had fun thinking about, he never gave up that understanding that he should do that service. It came to him. And so now I've skipped around a little bit, but he was rewarded just after he made that decision to simply surrender to what was a very difficult service, by somebody giving him a cassette tape that he could put in the car and listen while he's driving. And he would listen to this tape, and it was a recording of a transcription, so it got changed a few times, but it was somebody asking a question, and the name of the person that they had asked could not be mentioned. It was a little sensitive because it was a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, which nobody knew what to say about that at that time. And so they just simply said that the questioner had said, I was in Navadvip on a dusty rooftop on a hot afternoon, and an old Swami sat there, and I asked him the question, if the holy name is transcendental, how is it that we are chanting it with this mundane lips and tongue? And then the answer came, and my husband listened to it so many times, and he ultimately memorized that entire transcription, and said that this became the essence of his understanding of Krishna consciousness, that we are trying to please our gurus who are telling us to chant, and this is what we have to chant with. And by doing this, it's the holy name themselves can descend if they are so pleased. But what we can do sincerely is to always chant. And that also taught him about plurality of gurus, because he knew that the person speaking was his guru, and he had no way to approach him and give him service. When you've received something so high, you want to give some service, but he couldn't. He had no idea who he was or where he was. And it also taught him about the plurality of gurus, because he knew this was the same mood, the same message as who he had already accepted as his guru, Srila Prabhupada. And so he learned both of those very important lessons just from because he had surrendered, and he had to listen to this teaching so much. It's all he had. And the nights were quite lonely, and you can't see devotees, but he felt very fortunate to be able to try for that. And then if we jump forward from, let's see, that must have been about 1973 or 4, and then after Srila Prabhupada did depart, and as we all know, that was too difficult for the world, what to speak of people who had hoped that they could have his darshan forever. And by the Lord's arrangement, we got to learn about Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Maharaj through the grace of Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj. And so now we learned about going to visit Srila Guru Maharaj. And so when he did that, then he actually learned how to go to Navadvip and meet Guru Maharaj, who appeared as our guru. We were beginning to understand that. And so he got to get that connection, and very, very happily in 1982 or 82. He went to Navadvip, and it was wonderful, of course. And one day in a hot afternoon, things were rather quiet. He was sitting with Guru Maharaj, and it hit him. A rooftop, a dusty rooftop in Navadvip, an old Swami. And he knew that this was who he had been searching for. But he asked Guru Maharaj, who, as soon as he asked him, Guru Maharaj immediately said, oh yes. And this was at minimum 10 years later. He asked me like this, and I answered him. And my husband had been afflicted with polio when he was a baby and when he was 2 years old, so his tear ducts didn't work quite right, no problem. But when that happened, tears flew out of his eyes and hit Guru Maharaj. And so his faith and his belief that he was actually learning about Srila Guru Maharaj and about Srila Prabhupada and how together they were, and how this was all the extreme grace of Lord Nityananda and giving us Krishna consciousness. From then, he was living in a very high state of ecstasy all the time. And so, of course, he could continue with his money ventures, his business ventures, and nothing mattered except that plane of what they were giving us all the time. The books began being printed at that time, Search for Sri Krishna and Sri Guru and His Grace and all of that. So he was actually constantly very, very happy. And internally, if you knew him at all, you know he was very eccentric. But he was so happy to always be able to just go deep in his convictions. And then it wasn't too much longer that Srila Gurudev had made him in charge of SCSMath, and he was taking charge there and running that beautiful mat, and devotees were so happy and to see that growing, and Gurudev would come and visit. And it was at that time that the problems were revealed to his doctors, and in 99, about August or September, and he got that diagnosis. And so it was not hard to understand why he would feel like, what does it matter if I keep living or how long my life is? And devotees would always bring him juice or magnets. Krishna Mohini in Salt Lake City was always into okay, I'll wear this vest with this is going to cure you. Okay. But he did live until June, so he lived about 10 months from then. But at the very end, he wanted to go and give his respects to Gurudev one more time. And he he had all sorts of business loans available to him that he wasn't using. But he had many of them, and he applied for as many more as he could get, and he tapped out every one of them as cash. Well, the brilliant way he did it, there was nobody legally connected to him who was responsible for them. In fact, Mandakini took him one time. A U.S. citizen also has something that we call Social Security, which after paying taxes your whole life, then you can live off of those as you're old. But if you die before you're old enough to collect them, then they go to your heirs. Or you can take them out, but you'll have to pay a huge amount of tax on them, like at least 50% of it. But Mandakini took him to the Social Security office, and that was another source of funds that he wanted to bring to Gurudev. And he told them, and the lady, it was legal, she had to give him the cash, give him the big check. And she said to him very seriously, you do understand that you have to pay this much tax on this amount by the end of the year. And she said that both of them laughed and laughed. No, I won't. I'm not going to be living. So it was that was really typical of his personality, very ironic. And because when you can understand there's different planes of existence, surely most people would be planning carefully before they took so much money that they'd have to give up half of it. And it didn't matter. And so it was actually very hilarious for the both of them. And then he was able to go take that as kind of a gift to Gurudev, and who took such good care of him and set him up very nicely. And many devotees, such as Madhusudan Maharaj, were helping with his care there in the Centenary building.
Well, first in Calcutta.
First in Calcutta.
That's right.
That's right.
Because when he came, and well, I expect you're going to tell the rest of the story too, but he called Gurudev. It's not that he just arrived in India. He called him some time before. And not pushing anybody, asking, said, I have this wish. Gurudev, can I come? I try not to make any disturbance. My daughter is a trained medical person, Mandakini. All this, like, very humbly. And Gurudev, like, he's heard everything considered. And he said, I said, yes, you can come. Mm-hmm. And when he came, apparently he was expected to live 1 month more. Mm-hmm. And he came first of all to the airport, and so from the airport came to Dum Dum Park, which is the local temple, or the temple near the airport. And he was there for some time. And then Gurudev sent him to Navadip. And I'm the one who collected him from the airport, and I'm the one who took him to Navadip, because Gurudev knew I could drive carefully if I wanted to, because, you know, we drive Gurudev a lot. And then in Navadip he was there, and I can't say how many months, but he lived for some months, not 1 month. He lived quite a bit longer. And anyway, it's your story. But he was in Navadip, and then the Centenary building, and on the first floor upstairs, where he could come down with some assistance. In the beginning, he was more or less walking down the stairs with an arm. But then, with some assistance, but it was just up one flight of stairs. And it was the back left room of the Centenary building.
Yes. And so many devotees were helping him. Sripad Nyasi Maharaj, who was not yet a sannyasi, Bhakti Lalita was there, Srila Acharya Maharaj, in addition to you. And of course, Mandakini was overseeing all of that care.
She was the one who looked after him. I went there and said foolish words and things like this. But and with Gurudev, I was going to him. I wasn't looking after him in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we are looking after him as in the sense of taking care that way.
One time, Srila Gurudev started bringing her big bowls of rasgullas.
Rather to Mandakini.
Yeah. And so she would happily accept them. And he at one time asked her if she liked them, if she was getting them, did she like them? And she said, yes, it's very nice to have something to distribute to the devotees who come to help. He said, no, they're for you. Westerners, especially somebody in the health care, wouldn't think of eating a lot of rasgullas for a meal. But she was so happy to see. I mean, it's another world. It's not something you would understand in any other way except to have the grace of such Vaishnavas. And then he became quieter and quieter, and the devotees started just gathering and just chanting japa, just standing around him and chanting. And Dasi Maharaj was almost always there, who was his old friend. We had known the two of them, and Srila Didi and I are also still together since Sudarshan was about this big when we first met, so it goes back a while. Bharat was not born yet. But Dasi Maharaj was very happy to be with his old friend and to talk, or to give Mandakini a lot of assistance if it required some heavy lifting. Mm-hmm. And there was one time when my husband requested to go to the bathroom, and you know how the bathrooms are just off the room and they're all made of marble, and they became concerned when he stayed in there for a very long time and were quiet and not answering them. And so Dasi Maharaj actually, opened the door a little and went in, and he said, is everything all right? He said, I was getting some relief because of the floor is cool. So that was a kind of a pain relief to be touching the floor. And then on the morning of, he came to a conclusion at one point it was on June 17th that he parted, and a couple of days before that, he was becoming concerned about how long he was lasting and how the impact that had on the mat, and how the devotees were taking so much time and giving him so much, and including Srila Gurudev, who would come to see him often.
Well, at the very last time, he came to see him basically once a day or twice a day, and for a few minutes, for the last days.
Yeah.
But before that, he was actually coming to Gurudev with assistance most days, and then wasn't able, and then Gurudev will come and spend longer with him. Uh-huh. But then gradually, those last few days, Gurudev only saw him a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes in the afternoon.
Okay.
He would come, see him, and Rishabdev, he's kind of struggling. So it was only a short visits each time, and this is what made it even more special, how he passed away.
Yes. I do remember now seeing the picture when my husband's seated beside, just to Gurudev's right, in his veranda. In Gurudev's, I remember seeing that picture, and he's obviously in a lot of pain, but he was just concentrating, he's just meditating. But then he got this idea, there's so much, I'm being such a burden, and he told Mandakini, I came here to give service, and I am just taking service.
But everybody was very happy to look after.
Exactly.
It was his nature.
Yes, that was what he truly felt. And his mother in Texas, his brother-in-law was a doctor, and his mother was offering something they call hospice care, which is when somebody's really at the very end of their life. And she said she would pay for that if he would just come. back to Texas. And so that's what he thought was Krishna's answer to his feeling of taking too much service. And he told Gurudev and I were talking almost every day or emailing. And when we talked that day, we were both in shock. We just didn't say many words. He's planning to leave. And I had already had an extensive conversation with Mandakini, and I said things like, because she had been instructed by him to make arrangements for the flight. And Gurudev had said, if you're truly going to do that, then this brahmachari is going to go with you on the flight all the way back to America to make sure, I mean, you shouldn't be alone. And I had spoken with her a lot, and I said, what if the airline won't allow him, such a sick person? And she just said, well, then they won't allow it. And I said, what if you get, I think the flight landed somewhere like either Hong Kong or Bangkok. And I said, what if you get there and then you're stuck there? And she said, then we'll be stuck in Hong Kong. And she was simply fulfilling whatever her father wanted. So she had made the arrangements for the tickets and the flight. And the doctors had said, because in Navadvip the doctors didn't have as advanced equipment, there was a procedure that needed to be done to make his position even bearable, and it couldn't be done in Navadvip. And so there was an arrangement with the hospital in Calcutta for him to have that arrangement on the morning of the 17th before flying the next day. And as it happened, on the morning of the 17th, June 17th, he woke up and saw Srila Gurudev, who I guess by then was coming to greet him, and he told Gurudev, I'm feeling a little tired, I'm going to rest more. And I don't think he opened his eyes again that day. But Mandakini was with him, and at some point, the local doctor came to visit her and him and examined her father and looked at her and said, you know he's not going anywhere. And so she knew by then, and she had been thinking that, because she, like many people, were holding his hand while they chanted. And she, when the doctor said that, and she looked at her father, and she said it occurred to her that he's staying because I'm holding his hand. And so she was able to set his hand on the bed and pretty much surrender to whatever is going to happen. It's not in my hands. And at about that time was when Siddhanti Maharaj made an observation and went and told Srila Gurudev, I think he's leaving now. And you know that time better than I do.
Well, I went with Gurudev because those days we were going with Gurudev, and we went to him at our regular morning slot. Now, I don't know that, I mean, I'm not aware Siddhanti Maharaj came and told Gurudev that he's going to go now. But we went there at more or less the time Gurudev would go to see him. And we went, and Rishabdev's lying flat, but his body part, his upper body raised with some pillow. And he's very like relaxed and not with his eyes open, but very like flat. And but he'd been like that the day before. And maybe for a couple of days, I mean, in different ways. And anyway, he was there, and then Gurudev came, and we're up there. We're there for a few minutes with Bhudev Prabhu was there, some other, but we were just a few, maybe 6 around him. And Gurudev is there. I'm waiting. I'm on this side, so we're on the opposite sides of Gurudev. And then we're there. Gurudev may be saying something, and then Rishabdev not showing that he's responding, but Gurudev also knows that maybe he can hear. But then Gurudev and myself, we came, like Gurudev after a little while, and then maybe talk with Mandakini, but then we left. We were going to leave, and we came out from the room. We walked along that very wide corridor to the windows that face the front.
Yes.
And Gurudev we are at the window and Gurudev's kind of just making a comment or two, but when we are there and before going down the stairs, somebody came. I don't think it was Siddhanta Maharaj, it was a Bengali came and told Gurudev. It could have been Siddhanta Maharaj, I'm not sure.
He told me it was him, but maybe he gave a message to the Bengali.
Maybe, but urgently they said, Gurudev, he's going to pass away now, he's going to pass away now. And Gurudev said, how do you know? Like, we just come from there. And he said, no, he's going to pass away, come. So then, I don't know what the symptom was that caused that, and that may, well, I mean, I don't know the symptom. But there was some urgency to come, and Gurudev came back, then we're there. That's when Gurudev sent Bhudev Prabhu to go to get Charanamrita and the Bengali Bhagavad Gita. And Gurudev then came back, and then Rishabdev there, and he's breathing, breath, pause, long breath, then a pause, then like it was just like a very long breath. I mean, breathing and then like no breathing. But then Gurudev, when the Charanamrita came and the Gita came and the brahmacharis went running off, and I'm pretty sure it was Bhudev who he sent to run. And then he wrote that. Then Gurudev told, he didn't put, but he told, put the Bhagavad Gita on his chest and his japa. Means the japa of Rishabdev.
Yes.
Put on his chest. And Gurudev himself put some Charanamrita into the mouth. Just a little bit into the mouth of Rishabdev. And he opened his eyes and passed.
Yes.
Again, just very beautiful and sweet. And Gurudev was surprised. He talked about it for days.
Yes.
Talked about it for days. And then, I mean, you know the stories. But then, so then he passed away. Then everything, and everyone was softly chanting. It wasn't kirtans and mridanga, rather like individually chanting. We can say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And he passed away. And then Gurudev, we needed the certificate. So the doctor had been and the doctor had gone. So they called the doctor because we have to get the certificate and everything. And in the meantime, and the doctor was a nice man, but I mean really nice man, he cared. And then Gurudev told to Acharya Maharaj also, he was always helping. And Acharya, he told Acharya, okay, make arrangement for his going to the ghat. We're getting the death certificate. You need the certificate, then you can't just go and burn anybody. You got to have the death certificate. And then they went. Then he's making arrangement to get a van or something to take him in the back of a van to the death site, to the burning ghat. And then Acharya Maharaj, he cannot get a van anywhere, and he can do anything. And later, in Gurudev's talking, he said, Acharya Maharaj, he can do anything, but he could not get any transport. So, even till the last going to the burning ghat, then Rishabdev's wish was fulfilled, because then Gurudev sent Acharya Maharaj, you cannot get. No, Gurudev, I can't get it. They can't like this, Acharya Maharaj, very speedy. But he tried very much. Then he said, you go to the bamboo, behind the men's house, and you cut bamboo, and they made the way so that the wooden bed, they didn't make the wooden bed they take, but so they've got the bamboo, and they made it just like you see the people passing by, Bolo Hari, and he went to the burning ghat just in the traditional way, Bolo Hari, our devotees going there to the ghat. And then he went on his way in the burning ghat way. And so this was his leaving. And Gurudev, making so many comments later, and that's when he also said, we don't know who we live with. We don't know who we live with. By his will, what he wanted from sober, for what his wish was, that was fulfilled. And it was, really it was sweet. The whole thing was sweet, and actually wonderful. And he was not any trouble to anyone except Mandakini. I mean, Mandakini, her daughter, is medically trained. And she really was like 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Looking after him. And when the doctors come, their conversation, I couldn't understand it practically because it's all medical things, expressing, in medical ways. And then, this, I can't even say what the words are, but these long words that they use. We would just say, he had a pain in his side or something, but they, they've got all this language between them.
Yeah.
And you could see that the doctor was professional, but Mandakini is professional.
Yes.
Their conversation was quite different.
Yeah.
And so there was like very good communication between the doctor.
Yes.
And actually anyway, we know some detail, but the last time or the previous time the doctor came for a certain procedure that they had to do, which we've been there like watching, but he actually said this last time, that he cannot do one more, another time his body won't manage. So the doctor knew from a little while ago, and Acharya Maharaj said a week and a half before, he will pass away on Saturday. Acharya Maharaj said he'll pass away on Saturday. And he did not pass away that Saturday. Next Saturday he will pass away. Okay. I mean, somehow. And it was next Saturday he passed away. I asked him, Maharaj, how do you... I know. Okay, But he was smart. He knew many things. But you see, I called him the day before Gurudev passed away. Because really, it only then was coming in my mind, Gurudev's getting ready to go. The very day before Gurudev passed away, I called Acharya Maharaj, said, and exactly quoted this. I said, Maharaj, you knew when Rsabhdev, at least you knew he's going to pass away Saturday. How much longer has Gurudev got? And Acharya Maharaj silent on the phone. And then he said, at least one more year. And that was the evening before Gurudev passed away. Because he had some kind of, we saw many things. He really had some capacity. Gurudev had so much hope for lots of things. But he said, he will pass away Saturday. And the doctor had already said at that last time when they put the tube in the stomach and everything, he said, the body cannot tolerate another time. So there were those indications. And it was only Rishabdev's absolute humility that he is thinking, I'm causing trouble, I'm going to go. Because, I mean, also Gurudev, yes, they're making some plan, they're doing, but Gurudev knew it wasn't going to happen. And basically, I think we all knew it wasn't going to happen. But Mandakini, like you said, being like the perfect daughter, the perfect fulfiller of his wish, doing what he wants.
Yes.
That he wants that there'll be relief for the devotees there, and then make arrangement in the hospice in the USA. But I think Mandakini also knew that it's not going to happen, but she fully followed his wish.
Exactly. She was definitely not thinking or talking in a way of she knew what was going to happen. She was just looking at the next item that she needed to do to make his wish happen.
For him, yes. And Rishabdev was so funny because he did say something about sorry about those people, his financial dealings that he was doing. But he was quite like boyish, like mischievous about it.
Yes.
And by the way, you see his picture here. He's generally quite a healthy posture, not posture, what's the word? Anyway. Stature, quite a healthy stature. And Gurudev sent me to the airport that time to collect him, and he's told to go 1 month to live. So, we're expecting someone who's, the doctors say probably 1 month to live. We're expecting, expecting Rishabdev, who may be in not very good shape. I went to the airport to meet him. I never saw him look so healthy. Because he'd lost a lot of weight, so he looked thin. He was wearing running shoes and had a sports cap on, and he's thin. And I'm kind of looking at him, and and thinking, oh, why you? And I told him, oh, you look so good, Rishabdev, so healthy. Anyway, but yeah, and so those last days, he also said something about his money dealings, but like with a boyish, nothing I'm doing.
Yes.
But all for savor,
Yes.
for service, and everyone else will be. I mean, everyone else, the people of the general world, they'll have all kinds of other thoughts, but Rishabdev, service to the last second, and this opportunity of service. He was great, and he was caring for those who were caring for him, and very personal and sweet, everything. Yes.
I wanted to mention this other, where's that other photo of him?
It's on the iPad, which is probably being used for your broadcast.
Oh, I see. Maybe it can come up in this one or something. But I'm always thinking of this photo on this day, especially knowing how happy he was. And of course, he doesn't have a big smile on at the time, but that he was just overwhelmed with happiness because he had gotten for one solid week to serve Srila Gurudev and seeing the transformation of the whole state of California.
Haribo.
And then just the other day, I picked up my phone, and you know how sometimes various pictures, we finally found it in Facebook, right? And this picture just popped up, and I realized that is my favorite picture of him. And so I was looking, I couldn't find it. Just last minute, I thought of one thing, and Lavani Moy helped me to look, and we still couldn't find it. And then somehow, just as you were beginning to speak, it popped up. And so
do you have it on Facebook there? I mean, not on Facebook, on WhatsApp? Can you send it to me?
Which one is it?
It's the one that you have. And the reason I love this, reason
Good.
I love this picture, can you make it come
They
to?
can see it.
Oh, on Facebook they can. Well, I'll show you then, Maharaj.
But you can send, if you send me on WhatsApp, I can put it here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, there.
Okay, yes. So, the reason I love this, I'll tell that first, and that is because I was able to send a copy of this to Srila Gurudev. I printed out 2 of them and sent them one to Srila Gurudev, and months later, when I saw him, I asked him if he had ever received it, and he opened his little suitcase.
Red suitcase, which was actually brown. Yes.
Oh, okay.
He called it his red suitcase.
And he held it up and showed me. So he was carrying that in his suitcase of essentials, and he told me that he carried it for inspiration.
Hare Krishna.
And
This photo, same photo.
this photo. And so the reason I loved it and wanted him to have it is because this was taken, I don't even remember who took it, somebody took it and sent it to me, the night before he was going to the airport. And many people had come from all over to say goodbye to him the next day at the airport, and we all knew he could have passed away that second, or we all knew we'd not see him again. But we were gathered at the home of our son, Bharat Chandra, who had 2 children. One was 3 months old, and the other one is this little boy here, who is always saying he'll come and visit me, so I hope he gets to meet all of you. And he's now 28 years old. And so what I love about the photo is that in that time, which was so packed with emotion, and at the same time there's humor and affection, but many people were crowded into their home, and their home was not, they weren't like preparing to make it a photo opportunity. Good look, you can see it's very chaos. The main point of the picture is it's children's toys everywhere and mess, and there's a children's a thing that holds toys. It's made of wicker, and you can see that it's the head, the top of that chest. It looks like a bear, like a child's thing with ears, and the bear looks like it's just peeping over the Madanga, who are all these people. And then there's other chaotic things going on. And my husband is so happily, simply chanting. And you can see, in fact, he's not looking at the camera, he's not speaking, he's just chanting. What do you do? What is there to say? Everything is well taken care of. The details of what unfolds next are this or that, but that's not the important thing. What is as important is I have this moment to chant. And that's what, so he's chanting, and Srila Gurudev, when I asked him if he had received it and he held it up to me, he said, Parampara. Because the little boy, our grandson, is, he had his little mridanga, and nobody had ever trained him how to play mridanga. You weren't there. And so he saw his granddad is playing a mridanga. Nobody ever told him what you call that. He was about 2.5 years old. But he saw, I have my little mridanga. I'm always wondering what you do with this. And he saw his granddad had a mridanga, and he's doing this. So Jambavan picked up the little mridanga and just started doing what his grandfather was doing, because his hands are like that. And what I totally love is that you can't convince such a small child. You can't tell them to do that. It was totally like Gurudev said. It's parampara. It was spontaneous. And this is how the love of playing mridanga and chanting Hare Krishna can happen. You know, with this you pass it down. You see someone that looks like they know what they're doing, something wonderful, and you want to try that too. So I think that is actually my favorite picture of him. We don't see Gurudev in this picture, but he is most certainly there. And he loved the picture. I had just thought of a couple of more things I like to say, and one is when things didn't work out, when it was final that he was not going to be going to Texas, Srila Bhakti Kusum Maharaj, his dear old friend, said, told, I think, Sanatani Didi, the Holy Dham picked him up like a mother picks up her baby and would not let him go.
Hare Krishna.
So that was extremely, it seems like these details are going on in the background, but they all contribute to Gurudev's love and the love of the Holy Dham for the devotee, for the young, aspiring, he was actually young, 54. Someone who's had the grace of all these gurus and did the most perfect thing any of us could have done with that grace, as much as he could. His whole life was just that, as soon as he met him. I got this idea when Gurudev and I were talking about this shock that my husband's talking about, leaving the job and going to Texas to die in a hospital room. And I knew that if they did that, they would come through San Jose or San Francisco. And I told Gurudev, and I had just purchased the St. James Street temple. It was just myself living in it. It was a shambles, but I was living in it and not thinking, because of all of this going on, I wasn't thinking about getting it refurbished yet. I was just waiting for a few months. But there was tons of space in it. There were 2 floors. And so I told Srila Gurudev, I just had this idea when I was talking to him, and I said, if they come from Texas, they have to go through San Francisco, and I'm going to go to the airport, and I'm going to capture them. And I won't let them get on the plane to go all the way to Texas to get great medical care. And I said, we will bring him to San Jose, and as many devotees who want to can come and take care of him. Gurudev was very happy. He sounded to me like he was very relieved and happy, and he said, yes, San Jose will take care of him. So that was our way of coping with very unusual news. But the Holy Dham superseded my plans. That never happened. There is one other very sweet thing that happened at that time, and there was once when my husband was leaving, I think it was the year that, no, not the year that he bought the air conditioner for Gurudev, but it was the first year that he went, 82, and then he was about to leave, and there was a big darshan with Guru Maharaj, and my husband was there, and Guru Maharaj, and he was about to go to the airport to leave.
Leaving from where to where?
From
Going
Navadvip.
from Navadvip to Calcutta to come back to California.
Yes, in 1982.
Okay.
And so there was a very nice big darshan with Srila Guru Maharaj, and he was speaking so sweetly as he always does, and he said, and Rishabdev is leaving us today, and what will he say? And Guru Maharaj said, if you say, why are you leaving? He will say, I am coming right back. And so then, I mean, everyone in the room was silent listening to Guru Maharaj. But then on the day that he was supposed to go the next day to Calcutta to have the procedure to fly back to go to the hospice.
This.
Yeah.
On the last one. Now
In
we
2000.
jump forwards, yeah.
And so Jamuna, Priya, and I think, who was another lady who was serving along with Jamuna, Priya? Sundari, perhaps?
Quite possibly.
And so they were instructed by Gurudev to go to Calcutta to the hospital to prepare things, because they were, at that point it was assumed that he was going to spend one night, get the procedure in the Calcutta hospital, and then fly the next day. And so they had their duty, and quickly they got ready to go in the car, and Jamuna, Priya, told me that she just grabbed a cassette tape to listen to in the car. And so she had never heard it before, so she was listening, and it happened to be the cassette tape of the conversation from 1982 when Guru Maharaj was bidding him goodbye on that trip. And she heard Guru Maharaj say, and Rishabdev is leaving us, and if we ask him, he will say, and the tape cuts off. But that got reported, and then when they told me, I'm sorry, I knew what had been said right after that, because my husband repeated it constantly. That was Guru Maharaj's very, very sweet affection to him. He will say, I am coming right back. So that assurance, he loved to tell that, because it gave him, as if he needed even more things to increase his faith, that Guru Maharaj knew that if somebody leaves the Holy Dham, they're not really leaving the Holy Dham. We can't. We're too much bound. So, my great appreciation to all the devotees who like to hear this pastime.
Hare Krishna, I think that's all the devotees everywhere.
And what did Srila Gurudev say exactly when he had left?
When he had left?
Yes, where he went.
Where he went. Gurudev told me in the next couple of days, and I got to finally speak to Gurudev again. And he said, he has gone to Gaura Krishna Lila. And I didn't understand that at first. I thought maybe that was a name for Krishna, like Sadbhuj. I didn't know exactly what he meant by that. And so he could tell, and he repeated it for me, and I was quite astounded to hear that that was what he said. Yeah. So some service opportunity will continue always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I say, and they know because I checked with you, I am amazed it's 26 years ago. It is all so clear in my memory and like all the activity we did, and it seemed closer to Gurudev's own disappearance because Gurudev's health was not so good at that time too. Mm-hmm. But that also is a reminder of how long Gurudev's health was up and down, and the doctors told him again and again not to travel. But he traveled.
Yes.
And that was 2000. And he traveled another however many times, several times to come abroad since then.
Yes.
And I really thought it was a mistake by whoever runs SCSMath.com. And I thought it was a mistake, but they're all saying 2000. That can't be 2000. I checked yesterday with Kumkum. Is it 2000? She said, yes, 2000.
That was an incredible year in our family. Very important events happened in that year.
Okay, well, to be continued. All right. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna. And we bring ourselves back to 2026. To the London Sri Chaitanya Saraswati. And he'll be very happy you're here.
I'm very happy to be here.
Everyone's seeing how you are just continuing that same thread. What do we do with our life? We engage in Krishna consciousness.
I hope and I pray that will always be my choices.
Hare Krishna. All right, well, we don't have Jambuvan to play the mridanga, but we've got Abhinavasundar Prabhu, who is an almost professional mridanga teacher.
Lavanimai I can see.
What? Oh, Lavanimai Singh, yes, Lavanimai Singh. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yaravaya Namaha.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yaravaya Namaha. Yaravaya Maravaya Krishnaya Namaha. Gopal Govindaram Sri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madanammohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Giridhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath. Sri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Dasa Raghunath. H.I. Goshai Kori Karana Bandhan. Jahavate Vignana Kavita Puran. H.I. Goshai Jamui Karajas. Jai Mora Panchakas. Tangira Charana Sevi Vakta Sanivas. Janame More Eya Vilas. Ichai Goshai Jabe Braja Kolabas. Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korela Prasad. Anande Bolo Hai Vaishnavan. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Panchayaman. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Padma Hari Nam Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Jai.
Jai Jai.
Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Raga ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Bhattacharya Vrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki
Jai.
Jai. Navdeep Dham ki Jai. Maipur Dham ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Jagannathpuri Dham ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. Rsabhdev Guru ki Jai. Kumkum Didi ki Jai. Maharaj ki Jai. All the seven devotees ki
Jai.
Jai. Devotees everywhere.
Jai Jai
Jai.
Jai Jai.
Jai Guru Premanand.
Hari.